Today I'm going to show you how to adjust the handlebar height on your RY10 Pro. So I'm going to do this by simply going on the side here. I've already pre-loosened these bolts. The one has a slot in it, and I've done the same thing on the other side. I've used an adjustable wrench. Now what I'm going to do is find the height that I want. So in this case, I'm at the lowest height. I'm a little bit taller. I don't want it. I can go way up here, or I can come down right in the middle there, which is the height that I prefer. I'm going to find that height, and then I'm just going to set one of these bolts so that it holds the height while I go over to the other side and do the same thing. I'm going to check the height one more time, make sure I'm happy with it, and I am, and then I'm going to give it one final torque. And that's about all there is to it. Now the one thing to do to keep in mind when you make these adjustments, keep in mind whenever you adjust the height of your handlebars, you're potentially changing the position of your control rods, which can impact the open and close position on your valve. Every time you change your handlebars, you will have to check your valve and make sure that the valve pin is still sitting at 90 degrees. If you lift your handlebars and this goes up, it means your valve is partially open. Next time you use your machine, you're going to have some unwanted leaking. You can fix that simply by adjusting your control rod after you've adjusted your rods to make sure that it's still sitting at 90 degrees. So I'm going to talk about the importance of making sure your control rod is set to the right length, because an incorrectly set control rod can lead to your valve being slightly open. Obviously, your valve being slightly open when it's in the rested position could also lead to dripping or unnecessary material loss. So if you take the pin out here and we look at the valve, it basically sits at roughly 90 degrees to 12 o'clock to the top of the valve. That's the resting position. What this indicates is the valve is closed in this position. You don't want this to rest here, here, here. You want it to naturally bottom out and not be able to go any lower. This control rod is adjustable using the threads and the nuts and bolts right here. I can make it longer or shorter. In this case, it's already been pre-adjusted to the right length. So you can see that I'm able to just simply align this and slide it right in. I'm already at the right length and my pin is in place to be able to ensure that, that this stays where I want it to. Make sure you pay attention to that position. So today I'm going to show you how to adjust your valve control arm spring tension on the Ryno Worx RY10 Pro. So you can see here you've got a spring that's basically preset to a position, and if I simply grab the spring and pull up, you can see there's a handful of different positions that appear on this control rod. I'm simply just going to take the pin out. I can apply pressure upward for more tension, or I can get rid of it altogether by just letting the spring down and just putting the pin back in place as a placeholder for zero tension. Ultimately, it's whatever your preference is for valve tension, whether it's little or a lot. This will allow you to accomplish that. So I'm going to show you how to remove the valve pin from the inside of the valve body in the event that you needed to take it out or clean it. You're going to take the pin out of the end of the control rod and slide it out of place. There's an eye hook right here that I'm going to just unthread from the pin. If it's a little sticky, you may need an adjustable wrench to get this out. If not, in this case, it's a new one, so it doesn't. And then I'm just simply going to open the kettle, push this pin forward with my finger, and there we have it. The pin's out of place. So this can be cleaned up with a Dremel tool just to be able to get off any residual crack fill that over a period of time builds up on it. And if you really need to clean the entire body, you can unbolt the 4 screws that actually hold this housing in, and that entire stainless steel body will slide out. And you can, same thing, you can clean the inside of that with a Dremel tool if necessary. Reassembling it the same way that we took it out. Just put it back down, find the alignment of how it goes through the center. Pins in place. And there you have it, back together. So I'm going to show you how to light your RY10 Pro. So you can see here I've got a full propane cylinder of fuel. I've got my regulator and line assembly and my burner already installed in the kettle. My safety pin to hold the burner is in place. That's important. You want to make sure that that's in so that when you're using it, it doesn't, vibrate out of place while in use. So I'm going to start by making sure that the valve on my cylinder is open. The valve, the regulator valve is adjustable for my burner, and I'm going to turn that all the way clockwise. Fully clockwise is 100% pressure. Fully counterclockwise is off and no pressure. Keep that in mind when you're running this. I always start with full pressure, and you can always dial this back by adjusting this counterclockwise to lower the temperature or lower the burner pressure and flame size in the kettle. So now that I've got it in full pressure, I'm just simply going to bend over here. I'm going to grab my thermocouple, push down the button. I can hear a little bit of gas in the purge. I'm going to press the igniter button. I can hear that it's lit. I'm going to keep the thermocouple button depressed for about 10 to 15 seconds, and that's going to allow the flame out switch inside the burner detect the flame and keep the valve open so that your fuel continues to flow and your flame isn't disrupted. I'm going to release it, and I can hear that I've got a running machine. Now I can monitor the temperature of my material using my thermometer. Once that thermometer starts to kind of hit the red zone of around 380 to 400 degrees or higher, which is typically what crack fill gets melted at, I can throttle my temperature of that material by just lowering the pressure on the machine slightly to wherever I'm comfortable. This burner is incredibly efficient. It does not require a lot of fuel to run. So if you've got hot material already, you may even want to turn it off for 15-20 minute periods at a time while you wait to go reuse it. Or if it's a colder day out, running it at minimum will keep the stuff more than hot enough. To turn off the machine, you can either back off your regulator 100%. I recommend always turning off the valve on your propane cylinder when you're done, just to ensure that you don't have any pressurized fuel to that regulator. And that's all there is to it. I'm going to show you how to remove the burner from the RY10 Pro. So I can lean down here, I can see I've got a burner. There's a tab right beneath here that I can kind of grab onto, and there's a pin that holds it in place. So I'm going to start by just wiggling the pin out of place. It's a little bit tricky to get this in and out sometimes because there's a rubber grommet on the inside that keeps this secured. So I'm just going to grab the tab here, lift the burner, give it a little bit of a wiggle to get it over the hump, and then pull it right out. And there you have it. I've got my burner out. Having the burner out, you can see that it's pretty easy in the event that you need to service it. You've got all your components nicely, neatly tucked to this tray. And to get it back in, I'm just going to align the burner on the inside. There's a couple of tracks. Make sure that the burner is on the tracks. And then slide it in over the hump. And then just put my safety pin back in place. That's all there is to it.